Robert's kept woman, Sarah, was 8 months pregnant and about to give birth. He handed me a divorce agreement again. After 4 years of marriage, this was the 4th time he was divorcing me for Sarah. This time, I said nothing and signed it calmly. He breathed a sigh of relief and considerately assured me, "We'll remarry after the child is legally registered. Don't worry, the child will call you mother in front of outsiders in the future." Robert thought I would docilely wait for him to remarry, just like the previous 3 times. Until a month later, Robert called me. "The child's registration is settled. We'll go to City Hall to remarry tomorrow." But from my end of the phone, a lazy male voice answered. "TSK, I don't want my kid to have a different dad, ex-husband, bro." After a month apart, the first thing Robert did upon returning home was throw a divorce agreement at me. "Sarah is due soon. We'll temporarily divorce first. I need to legally register the child." No pleasantries. No preamble. Not even feigned concern. It showed how desperate he was to divorce this time. I picked up my teacup, took a sip, and slowly began to speak. "Robert, do you remember what day it is today?" A rare look of confusion appeared on Robert's face. Clearly, he didn't remember. I chuckled softly, my gaze falling on the divorce agreement. "It's our wedding anniversary." It was quite ironic. For the past 3 years, no matter how much he messed around outside, he would come home on our wedding anniversary to have dinner with me and prepare a gift. This year, the gift he gave me was a divorce agreement I was all too familiar with. I had to admit, this Sarah was different in Robert's heart. In the past, the women around him changed one after another, the longest lasting no more than a month. But Sarah had been with him for a full year. He had even divorced me 4 times for her. The first time we divorced was when Robert first became interested in Sarah. He showered her with millions in jewelry and gifts, but Sarah insisted she would never be a mistress. The second time we divorced was for Sarah's birthday. Robert promised to fulfill her every birthday wish. She wished for Robert to be single. The third time we divorced was when Sarah demanded recognition. Robert repeated the trick, divorcing me again to appease her. Today was the 4th divorce. To legally register the child in her belly. A hint of belated guilt surfaced in Robert's eyes. "Ellie, I'm sorry. Sarah is due soon, and I completely forgot it was our anniversary. I'll have my assistant pick out a gift and send it right over." "No need." I picked up a pen and expertly signed the divorce agreement. "I've signed it. You can go." Actually, even if Robert hadn't proposed divorce, I would have brought it up myself. I had originally planned to sit down quietly and have one last meal with him, then take out the divorce agreement I had already drafted, to signify an end to our relationship. I hadn't expected Robert to have completely forgotten our wedding anniversary, his mind solely focused on the divorce. Seeing me sign so readily, Robert was momentarily taken aback, looking astonished. "Ellie, you..." I knew what he was thinking. After all, the previous times we divorced, I would always make a scene. The first time, I smashed the entire house. The second time, I argued with him hysterically. The third time, I threw a cup of hot water in his face. Men were always like this. When you didn't make a fuss and gave them what they wanted, they became uncomfortable. A mocking smile played on my lips. "Isn't this what you wanted?" Robert stared at me for a long while, and after confirming I showed no signs of anger, he relaxed. "It's good that you've thought it through this time. The divorce is just for show anyway, a formality. My wife will always be you." I suddenly became curious as to what gave Robert such unwavering belief that I would remarry him over and over again. Thinking this, I went ahead and asked. Robert paused for a moment, seemingly not expecting me to ask this question. But soon, he looked at me with his supposedly affectionate eyes. "We grew up together as childhood sweethearts. We decided long ago that we were meant to spend our lives together. How could you possibly not remarry me?" Robert and I were neighbors since we were children. Our parents were both in loveless marriages of convenience between wealthy families. After having us, they each found new families outside. Aside from nannies, we only had each other for company. In my memory, the young Robert was very possessive of me. Ellie, only I can hold your hand. No other boys are allowed. Okay. I'll only let Bobby hold my hand. Ellie, Auntie Martha said that only husbands and wives can be together forever. From now on, I'll be your husband, and you'll be my wife. We'll never be apart. Okay, I want to be Bobby's wife. When we were 16, Robert's parents' relationship completely broke down. They divorced without hesitation and left the country with their respective partners, leaving Robert alone. That night, in the pouring rain, he knocked on my door. The moment I opened the door, a soaking wet Robert pulled me into a tight hug. Ellie, I only have you from now on. I will never become like them. In that moment, two lonely hearts truly came together. After graduating from university, we naturally got married. Among arranged marriages in wealthy circles, it was rare to find a couple who were not only well-matched but also genuinely in love. Many people at the wedding blessed us with a long and happy marriage. But some also whispered privately that sooner or later, we would be like everyone else, going our separate ways in private. That night, I told Robert exactly what they said. Under the dazzling fireworks, Robert kissed my forehead softly. We are different from them. I will love you forever. I once believed that wholeheartedly, but reality told me they were right. A man's true feelings are the most fickle. I looked at the seemingly affectionate man with amusement. Robert, I won't remarry you. The expression on Robert's face went blank for a moment. His brows gradually furrowed. Ellie, don't joke with me. He leaned down slightly, staring into my eyes, a chill emanating from him. I didn't back down and met his gaze. I'm serious. Robert straightened up, lit a cigarette, his expression obscured in the hazy smoke. Ellie, I thought you were more sensible now. It's just a fake divorce to legally register the child. There's no need to threaten me. The lingering smell of smoke made me feel nauseous. I reached out, took the cigarette from him, and extinguished it in the ashtray. It's not a threat. I'm planning to marry someone else. Robert scoffed. Who? That guy you hired to make me jealous last time? His name is David, and I didn't hire him. I corrected him. David is the younger brother of my best friend, Jessica. Ever since Robert started keeping mistresses, I often invited a few good friends to travel and have fun with me, escaping that empty mansion. David was coincidentally attending university locally, and Jessica would occasionally bring him along. Little by little, we got to know each other. Our relationship changed the day Robert first brought up divorcing me for Sarah. At that time, Robert was just becoming interested in Sarah, showering her with millions in gifts. To pursue her, he went to the restaurant where she worked every night to pick her up after her shift. That night, a customer happened to get handsy with Sarah. Robert immediately pulled Sarah into his arms and kissed her lips, ignoring everyone around them, to assert his claim. I witnessed everything from a nearby table. In a fit of anger, I leaned into the arms of David, who was sitting beside me, and sarcastically applauded. I tried to use another man to provoke Robert's anger, but Robert just gave me a calm glance, then pulled a blushing Sarah away and left. That night, Robert came home and handed me a divorce agreement. He said Sarah had agreed to be with him, but only if he divorced me. As if afraid I wouldn't agree, he added that it was just signing an agreement, a fake divorce for show. Robert's words were like a thunderbolt striking me. In the past, his mistresses had always been kept outside, never brought to my attention. I could still deceive myself that Robert's heart was still with me. But now, our precious marriage, to Robert, had become a tool to appease another woman. A crack began to form in my heart. But I was still unwilling to give up. How could he just trample on our childhood sweetheart's bond like this? After 3 days of my shouting and making a scene, he still didn't change his mind. Instead, he calmly said to me, Ellie, if you feel it's unfair, you can find someone too. Was that guy at the restaurant that night someone you specifically hired to make me jealous? Don't worry, I won't be angry, and I won't stop you from finding a man. If you like him, just keep him. I looked at the man in front of me in disbelief. We had spent 25 years together day and night, yet at that moment, he felt so utterly unfamiliar. You wouldn't mind at all? Robert's expression was indifferent. I don't mind. Isn't that how couples in wealthy families are? They each do their own thing, as long as it doesn't affect the other's status. In that instant, the image of the teenager who had held me tightly in the pouring rain, promising never to become like his parents, turned to dust in my mind. 25-year-old Robert had become the very person 16-year-old him hated the most. I stood amidst the wreckage, and after a long while, I heard my own hoarse voice. Okay. After Robert left, my phone dinged. It was a message from David. Ellie. Was your husband angry? I don't think we acted realistically enough tonight. Should I pretend to be your boyfriend again and test him? I didn't reply. For days, I stayed at a bar, drinking myself numb. When David found me, I could barely stand. He drove me home and even thoughtfully bought hangover medication on the way. Ellie, you can ask your husband to mix you some honey water when you wake up tomorrow morning. It will make your stomach feel better. The boy's bright eyes only reflected my image. Robert's words from that night came to mind. On impulse, I grabbed the hand that was unbuckling my seatbelt. My husband isn't home tonight. A young man in his early 20s truly had a fire burning within him. The temperature in the already cramped car rose steadily. I was kissed until I was breathless, only able to murmur the words "go home." As soon as we entered the house, my high heels were scattered haphazardly on the floor. I desperately clung to David's strong waist. His hot breath fanned my neck. Ellie, can I? I didn't speak, responding with my actions. That night, I was exhausted and fell into a deep sleep. The second before I drifted off, only one thought was in my mind. Men at 25 really are a watershed moment. Robert clearly didn't believe me and spoke in a compromising tone. Okay, he wasn't hired by you. He's that toy boy you hired, right? Ellie, he sighed helplessly, don't say you're going to marry someone else just to spite me. It makes me sad. Hearing that, I found it laughable. He actually said he would be sad if I married someone else. Didn't he ever think about how sad I must have been when he broke his vows, kept Sarah outside, and treated our marriage as a game to appease other women? Since he didn't believe me, I didn't want to keep emphasizing it. He would understand I was serious when we went to get the divorce certificate. As soon as Robert left, a video call from David came in. Ellie, did your husband agree to the divorce? The boy's eyes were sparkling, filled only with me. I curved my lips and held up the divorce agreement in my hand. I've signed it. We just need to wait a month to get the divorce certificate from City Hall. David suddenly became serious. Ellie, I'm really happy you agreed today. Actually, the thought of divorce had been swirling in my mind ever since Robert first cheated. But I could never let go of our childhood sweethearts bond, of the time when we only had each other. Even after David came into my life, I couldn't bring myself to file for divorce. Until last night. David prepared a fireworks display for me to celebrate our 1-year anniversary of being together. As I watched in surprise, he took out a ring and slowly knelt down. Ellie, I don't want to see you torment yourself anymore. Divorce him and marry me, okay? The love burning in the boy's eyes made my heart, which had long turned cold, feel warm again. It was as if the old, broken places in my heart were slowly being mended. That's right. This marriage now only brought me endless pain and torment. I had trapped myself in a cage named the past, trying to deceive myself into continuing this marriage with the thought that Robert had once loved me deeply. But the truth was, 26-year-old Robert was already unrecognizable. Our marriage had become a pool of foul-smelling mud, and his love for me was no longer pure. Why should I continue to endure it? I took off the ring, which had become a little loose, and threw it into the darkness. Smiling, I held out my hand. Okay. After confirming the divorce with Robert, I started dealing with the items in the mansion. Wedding photos, photo albums from childhood, love letters we wrote to each other kept in the safe, and all of Robert's personal belongings. I threw them all away like trash. As for my clothes and bags, I packed them and had them sent to my new place. When David proposed, he gave me everything he owned, saying it was only right that what was his was also mine. I couldn't refuse him, so I chose one of his properties closest to his university as our new home. After everything in the mansion was sorted out, I found an agent to list it online, planning to sell it. When I moved into the new place, David was still away at a competition. He often video called me, and we chose things we needed to buy for the new home little by little. We decorated the place exactly how we both liked it. During this time, Sarah also sent me a message. Ms. Shin, thank you on behalf of the child in my belly. We'll invite you to the welcome party for the baby, you must come. The picture accompanying the message showed Robert placing his hand on her large belly, smiling tenderly. I didn't reply and blocked her number. A month passed quickly. On the day we were to get the divorce certificate at City Hall, I waited early at the entrance. Robert also arrived right on time, getting out of his car. Ellie, this time we're actually getting the divorce certificate, not canceling the application. Strictly speaking, the previous 3 times we had only signed the divorce agreement. A month later, Robert would say he had achieved his purpose and there was no need to get the divorce certificate. This time, he had to divorce to legally register the child. And I had genuinely made up my mind to divorce. I spoke calmly. I know. Let's go. Robert was somewhat surprised that I was so calm and continued to explain. Ellie, we'll remarry after the child is legally registered. Don't worry, in front of outsiders, the child will call you mother. No one will ever take your place. I stopped walking and looked at Robert. This face, which had once made my heart flutter, now made me feel a bit nauseous. I couldn't find a single trace of the person I used to know. I took a deep breath and urged him. Let's just get the paperwork done. Robert didn't think much of it and followed me in. Having come to get divorced 3 times in 1 year, the staff almost recognized us. This time, the staff member asked skillfully, still canceling the divorce application? No, we're here to get the divorce certificate. The staff member gave us a surprised look. Seeing that we were serious this time, they quickly started processing the paperwork. A few minutes later, I held a marriage certificate in my hand. It turned out that a marriage that had tormented me for several years could be completely over in just a few minutes. Leaving City Hall, Robert uncharacteristically suggested we go on a date. Ellie, we haven't had dinner together in almost a month, right? How about that Italian restaurant you love for lunch? Sarah has been really clingy in her late pregnancy. I couldn't get away. I'll come home more often after she gives birth. I smiled slightly and held the divorce certificate up to him. Robert, we're divorced now. Robert smiled and reached out to take my hand. Stop messing around, Ellie. It's all fake. He didn't finish his sentence as a large hand wrapped around me, pulling me into a hug and away from his touch. Who says it's fake? Ellie is my fiancée now. I looked at David in surprise, my eyes filled with delight. Didn't you say you wouldn't be back for another week? David's handsome eyes, shaped like peach blossoms, were full of smiles. Of course, it was to give Ellie a surprise. How could I not be by Ellie's side on such an important day, celebrating her escape from misery? I held up the divorce certificate, feeling completely free. I got it. Ellie, there's a limit to hiring people to put on a show. Robert interrupted us, his face darkening. His cold gaze landed on David's hand on my waist, his expression grim. I almost laughed at his words. It seemed he hadn't believed for a second that I had found someone else. He still thought I was the same Eleanor who was desperately in love him and would remain faithful, even if he was openly cheating. I was about to tell him to face the truth when his phone rang. The grim look on the man's face instantly softened as he spoke gently and coaxingly to the person on the other end. After hanging up, his gaze didn't spare David a single glance, as if he didn't exist. He just explained to me, Sarah's stomach isn't feeling well. I need to take her to the hospital. Ellie, you go home first. I'll take you out to dinner another time. With that, he rushed into his car and left. I had to swallow the words I was about to say. David spoke, looking slightly wronged. Ellie, why doesn't your ex-husband understand plain English? His expression was exactly like a golden retriever with a furrowed brow. I couldn't help but smile, the irritation Robert had caused completely fading away. It's okay. He has nothing to do with me anymore, and we won't see him again. David's smile returned. Ellie, I have a surprise for you. He pulled me into the car and mysteriously tied a blindfold over my eyes. A sense of anticipation rose in my heart. Ever since Robert started keeping mistresses outside, he had never put thought into preparing surprises for me. Even for birthdays and anniversaries, he always left it to his secretary to choose gifts. After parking, David lifted me up in his arms. Instinctively, I tightened my arms around his neck. Leaning against him, I could clearly hear my heart pounding, faster and faster. After walking for some time, David finally set me down. Ellie, you can take off the blindfold now. I carefully removed the blindfold and was so surprised by the scene before me that my heart skipped a beat. The living room floor was covered in pink rose petals. On either side were displayed all the photos of David and me from the past year. Subconsciously, I went through the photos one by one. A flood of memories filled my mind, and the corners of my mouth lifted involuntarily. AF. To the last photo, a large fondant cake sat in the center of the living room. Standing at the center of the cake was a small fondant figure wearing a red dress. Looking at that figure, my eyes couldn't help but turn red. It was me at my 18th birthday celebration. David's warm fingertips gently wiped away the moisture from my eyes. Ellie, from now on, you will always be the bright and sunny Eleanor you were at 18. 18-year-old Eleanor, how long had it been since I'd seen her? I couldn't quite remember. I only remembered that ever since Robert began openly keeping Sarah, the bright and spirited Eleanor who believed in love had disappeared. All that was left was a body tormenting itself. Until today, the soul of Eleanor had truly returned to its rightful place. You deserve the purest, best love in the world. I stood on my tiptoes and kissed his lips. David was startled at first, but then quickly held the back of my head, deepening the kiss. A month's worth of longing poured out in that moment of passion. The boy's warmth filled all the pain and torment I had endured over the past 3 years. Just as my mind was about to go blank, I seemed to hear a low, almost inaudible sigh beside my ear. Ellie, you're finally completely and entirely mine. Robert's friends happened to run into him and me at City Hall getting divorced, and they took a picture and sent it to their group chat. Holy cow, Robert and Ellie are divorcing again. Come on, you're making a big deal out of nothing. How many times has it been? Robert's just doing it to appease that Sarah of his. They'll remarry in the end anyway. That woman is almost due, right? Ellie is so calm this time, she didn't make a fuss at all. Hey, look, Ellie has some young guy with her. This is the first time I've seen that. Could she be moving on and not remarrying Robert? Sarah was close to her due date. After Robert took her to the hospital and got her settled, it was already evening. He opened his phone and saw 99 plus messages in the group chat. He quickly skimmed through them, finding only trivial topics. Suddenly, his hand paused, and his expression darkened slightly. He long pressed the message discussing whether I would remarry him and replied, "That person is just someone Ellie hired to make me jealous. After the baby is born and legally registered, we'll remarry." Robert's reply made the group chat lively again. So he was hired. I knew Ellie loved Robert so much, there's no way she'd have another man. Exactly. Their childhood sweethearts bond goes back over 20 years. No one can compare to that. Robert's expression improved significantly. No one could compare to the bond he and I had shared since childhood. When he had suggested I find a man myself, it was only to keep me from interfering with him keeping Sarah. He simply didn't believe I would betray him. Although I had agreed verbally at the time, he was certain that because I loved him so much, I would at most hire someone to put on a show in front of him. I would never actually go find another man. He recognized the guy at City Hall today. It was the same person I had hired to make him jealous last time. Thinking of the man's hand around my waist, even though he knew it was an act, he still felt a sense of irritation. In a flash, he also felt a little guilty. Since Sarah had gotten pregnant, he had hardly been home. After she gave birth, he would spend a good amount of time at home with me. After all, I was the woman he loved most. I didn't expect David to tell his family about our relationship so quickly. On the way to the Johnsons' place, my palms were damp with nervous sweat. I was 5 years older than David, good friends with his sister Jessica, and I had even been divorced once. What if the Johnsons didn't approve of us being together? David, who was driving, noticed my unease. While waiting at a red light, he took my hand and said seriously, "Ellie, my family respects my choices. They'll like you because I love you." Hearing his words, I felt much calmer. When we arrived at the Johnsons' place, just as David said, his parents welcomed me warmly. His mother, especially, held my hand and chatted with me constantly. I completely relaxed. The only thing that surprised me was that Jessica didn't seem surprised to see me at all. She leaned close to my ear with a smile. "My brother owes me big time from now on." I was confused and didn't have time to ask her why before David pulled me away. Dinner at the Johnsons' place was filled with warmth and laughter. I felt the warmth of a family again after a long time. After getting home, I was still curious. Why does David owe Jessica? David's eyes darted away, and he mumbled, refusing to answer. I was about to interrogate him when a sharp pain shot through my lower abdomen. My face instantly lost all color, and cold sweat broke out on my forehead. I doubled over, barely able to stand from the pain. David immediately panicked. "Ellie, what's wrong?" Seeing that I was in too much pain to even speak, he didn't hesitate to scoop me up in his arms, stepped on the gas, and sped to the hospital. After a series of tests, I lay on the hospital bed waiting for the results. The sharp pain in my lower abdomen had lessened, but my face was still pale. David held my hand tightly, constantly comforting me in a low voice. Seeing him more nervous than me, I managed a weak smile, about to tease him a little to help him relax. The doctor pushed open the door, holding the medical report. "There are signs of threatened miscarriage. Be careful not to do any strenuous activity recently." The doctor's words made my mind go blank. I was pregnant? David froze in place. It wasn't until the doctor called him several times that he snapped back to attention. He took the medical report and looked at it repeatedly, his voice slightly trembling. "Doctor, are you sure she's pregnant?" The doctor glanced at him strangely. "Of course. Could the test results be wrong? She's already 7 weeks pregnant. You must be careful. No strenuous activity for the first 3 months." I couldn't hear what the doctor said afterward. My mind was filled only with the word pregnant. Robert and I hadn't had any intimacy since he cheated. This child was David's. At this moment, David's eyes were also red, and his hand trembled as he reached out to touch my lower abdomen. But it was as if he was afraid of hurting the baby, and he hesitated to touch it. His voice couldn't hide his excitement. "Ellie, we're having a baby." I instinctively touched my lower abdomen, as if I could feel the heartbeat connected to my bloodline. When I married Robert, I desperately wanted a child of our own. Neither Robert nor I had felt paternal or maternal love growing up, but I thought we would give all our love to our child. We would give them the best mom and dad in the world. But Robert always refused, saying we had just gotten married and weren't in a hurry. Later, he had other women outside and had his own child. And I was trapped alone in the ruins of that marriage. Until David's appearance, who led me out of there, giving me a new life. Now, I also had a new life growing inside me. I looked at David, smiling gently. "Let's get our marriage certificate." Not long after being admitted to the hospital to await labor, Sarah's water broke. She agonized in the delivery room for a whole night before the baby was finally born safely. The moment he heard the baby cry, Robert breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, he secretly felt fortunate that he hadn't let me have children. He knew that giving birth was extremely dangerous for women, possibly even life-threatening. He also knew how painful childbirth was and the irreversible damage it could cause to a woman. Therefore, even though I had constantly hinted how much I wanted a child when we first got married, he hadn't agreed. He was afraid of me experiencing the pain of childbirth. Even more afraid that I would leave him because of childbirth. Now, he was even more certain that his original decision was correct. A nurse carried the baby out of the operating room. She handed the tiny bundle to him. Congratulations, Mr. Pei, on your baby girl. Robert looked at the baby, who was sleeping soundly with her eyes closed, and his heart melted completely. Ellie would definitely love a daughter. He had to tell Ellie the good news. After instructing his assistant to get the child legally registered, he didn't even wait for Sarah to be moved out of the delivery room before rushing to the stairwell with his phone. He dialed my number. It had been over a month since he last saw me at City Hall. Sarah had been incredibly clingy during this time, but he had to stay by her side constantly for the sake of the child. I must be eagerly waiting to hear him propose remarrying, right? I would definitely be even happier knowing it was a daughter. The phone rang for a long time before it was answered. Robert spoke impatiently. Ellie, the child's registration is settled. We'll go to City Hall to remarry tomorrow. However, the voice on the other end was not the excited response he had anticipated from me. Instead, a lazy male voice answered. TSK, I don't want my kid to have a different dad, ex-husband, bro. Who is this? What nonsense are you talking about? Give the phone to Ellie, I need to talk to her. Robert gripped his phone tightly, the veins on his hand bulging. He recognized the voice. It was the guy who had been holding me at City Hall. Oh, I'm not talking nonsense. I'm Ellie's husband now, the father of the baby in her belly. You can tell me anything you want to tell Ellie, and I'll pass it on. Bang! The phone fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. I knew that given Robert's personality, he would come looking for me once he realized I was determined to divorce him. But I hadn't expected him to wait outside my door all night. When I opened the door in the morning, I was startled. Robert, who always kept himself meticulously groomed, had stubble on his chin and dark circles under his eyes. It wasn't hard to guess he hadn't slept all night. The moment I saw Robert at the door, David quickly came to my side and wrapped his arms around me possessively. Robert, however, seemed not to see him, his gaze fixed only on me. Ellie, we need to go to City Hall to remarry. From now on, we'll only have each other. Let's cut off everyone else, okay? I chuckled softly. Even now, Robert was still deceiving himself. I asked David to go into the bedroom and get our marriage certificate. I opened it and showed it to Robert. Robert, look closely. David and I are already married. We can't remarry. Robert stumbled back slightly, a smile on his face that was uglier than a cry. How is that possible? You're just lying to me, aren't you? I know you're getting back at me. I swear, I'll never find another mistress again. If you don't like that child, I'll even send her away. Please stop being so stubborn with me, okay? Robert, who had always been so arrogant, sounded almost pleading at the end. But my heart remained completely unmoved. I'm not being stubborn. I don't love you anymore. Those words seemed to ignite all of Robert's emotions. How can you not love me, Ellie? We've been together for 26 years. How can you just say you don't love me anymore? The only person I love is you. The other women were just for novelty. Being with Sarah was just to get her to have a child. Didn't you want a child? Wouldn't it be great if I brought the child for you to raise? I was afraid something would happen to you giving birth, afraid you'd be harmed during pregnancy, that's why. Slap! I couldn't listen anymore and slapped him hard. The first year of our marriage, Robert was as good to me as ever, and my heart was filled with sweetness, believing I had married for love. But in the second year of marriage, he started coming home later and later, until I first found lipstick on his shirt. That night, I had a one-sided argument with him. He desperately held me, trying to calm me down, swearing to me that it was just an accident and would never happen again. I believed him. But just a month later, he started staying out all night. When he came back the next day, he smelled of shower gel from having just showered. I knew then that he was tainted. But no matter how hysterical I became, he just sat on the sofa, smoking, quietly watching me vent. When I calmed down, he used the calmest words to say the most hurtful things. Ellie, businessmen inevitably have social obligations. Moreover, in our circle, this kind of thing is very common. You should learn to be magnanimous and turn a blind eye. You will always be Mrs. Pei. Isn't that enough? From then on, he no longer hid keeping Sarah outside from me. My love for him also disappeared in the torment of those days. Novelty? Doing it for me? They were just excuses for not being able to control his own desires. Robert, you truly disgust me now. He stumbled back in disbelief, his expression pained. Ellie, no, don't do this to me. You have to believe me. I've always loved you. My stomach churned, and I involuntarily dry heaved. You love me, so you slept with different women for 3 years? You love me, so you got another woman pregnant? You love me, so you treated our marriage as a game to appease another woman? With every word I spoke, Robert's face turned a shade paler. He wanted to explain but had no words. Every word I said was the truth. The only thing in my eyes when I looked at him was endless coldness. Robert, you only dared to cheat so brazenly and repeatedly trample on my feelings for you because you knew I loved you. You don't deserve my love. The last bit of color drained from Robert's face. His voice trembled, his eyes bloodshot. Ellie, I know I was wrong. Can you forgive me one last time, please? He tried to grab my hand. David quickly moved, shielding me behind him. At this moment, I felt nothing but disgust for him. Stop bothering me. Now I have someone I love, a child, and I'm very happy. Why would I go back to that muddy, rotten marriage? With that, I didn't want to argue with him any further. I closed the door, shutting out everything outside. Because of the threatened miscarriage, I barely left the house for the first 3 months. Jessica often came to keep me company so I wouldn't be bored. From her, I learned that after Robert went back that day, he ignored everyone's pleas and insisted on sending away the baby Sarah had given birth to. Sarah, still weak from childbirth, knelt on the ground begging him. But he remained unmoved and walked away with the baby. Perhaps driven by maternal instinct, Sarah gritted her teeth and endured the pain to chase after him, wanting to snatch her baby back. During the struggle, they both fell down the stairs. The baby was protected in Sarah's arms and was unharmed. But Sarah suffered a major hemorrhage and had to undergo emergency surgery to have her uterus removed to save her life. Meanwhile, Robert's legs happened to crash into a broken railing. The snapped iron bars pierced his legs. He lost consciousness from excessive blood loss on the spot. When he woke up again, he had become a disabled person, having lost his legs. He couldn't accept the blow of falling from being a favored son to a disabled person, and his emotions spiraled into collapse. The doctors had to administer a sedative to calm him down. When the company's board of directors learned of his disability, they immediately held a meeting and elected a new CEO. When he fully recovered, another piece of devastating news would be waiting for him. However, none of this mattered to me anymore. Hearing all this, I simply smiled faintly. It was as if I was listening to news about strangers. The only one I felt a little sorry for was probably the newborn baby. After all, she was innocent. I found someone to provide tuition for the baby from kindergarten to university through a social welfare fund. It was the only thing I could do. And perhaps it would bring some good fortune to the baby in my belly. 7 months later, I safely gave birth to my daughter, Claire. As soon as I came out of the delivery room, I saw David pacing back and forth anxiously at the door, his eyes red. As soon as he saw me, he rushed forward and took my hand. Ellie, you did great. We won't have any more children after this. We'll just raise this one. I squeezed his hand back, a smile playing on my lips. The child who shared my blood was by my side. The person I loved and who loved me was in front of me. The happy family I hadn't experienced in my childhood. Today, it was finally complete. And